Hey, I'm Pastor Quinn,
I'm Lexi.
and this video is all about decision encouraging. Now, decision encouraging is exciting because that means a student just made a potential decision to give their life to Jesus, and that is what our ministry is all about. And so the question is, how do we handle a student who makes a decision? I'm hoping this video will give you a few quick steps on how to do that. So if a student makes a decision, maybe they want to give their life to the Lord, I don't know, the first thing you have to do is you have to ask them a question. And that question might look like, hey, how did God speak to you tonight? How did God speak to you through the lesson? What is God teaching you? What did maybe you come back for? Because sometimes it's not always salvation. Maybe they just need prayer. Maybe there's something they're really struggling with in their life that they just need your advice on. And maybe they did give their life to Jesus. And if that is the case, then you want to make sure they have a good understanding of the gospel, because you could literally ask any student what the gospel is, and they could give you something that is in complete contradiction to the gospel. I have found myself in a situation where I've asked a student, hey, what is the gospel? And why do you believe that you deserve to go to heaven? And they told me, well, I did the dishes, I did a lot of good things for my mom, and unfortunately, that's just not what it means to believe in the gospel. And so, as the leader, we have to make sure that they have a good understanding of what the gospel is before we move them forward to that next step. And there's many methods in sharing the gospel. The one method that I use personally is the three circles method. And basically, it's just the circle of God's design. So it's just us talking about that God has designed us to have a relationship with Him, but sin has broken us from that relationship. It's broken us from God's design, and sin actually leads to the second circle, which is brokenness. And I think anybody can relate to brokenness. Everybody has a void in their life that they're trying to fill, uh, fill things that don't fit that God-sized hole. And so they run to other things that just lead to more brokenness, whether it's porn, drugs, alcohol, anxiety, approval, whatever it is, and it just leads to more brokenness. However, when you repent, and you turn to Jesus, and you believe that He came down, He lived a perfect life, He died on the cross, He rose from the dead, man, He can change that brokenness. He can give you hope in that brokenness, and then you're able to recover and pursue God's original design that He had for you in the first place. I've even got these little gospel bracelets that we can use as well. But there's actually an app, like, I know you're probably not going to remember what I'm saying, but there's an app called Life on Mission, and you can download that app, and it'll literally walk you through the entire gospel using the three circles method. So just make sure that they understand what the gospel is. Make sure that they respond to it, because it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to believe it and to respond to it. So give them an opportunity to respond, lead them in a prayer of salvation, let them know that there's nothing magical about a prayer. It's really about the attitude of their heart. And then once they make that decision, then you can always encourage them to the next step. That next step might look like baptism. That next step might look like joining a discipleship group or joining the serve team, but just always make sure that you're helping students to move forward. And when they do make that next step, make sure that they know what they're walking into. Because you may be like, all right, well, let's get you baptized. Well, what if that student doesn't know what baptism is? You're going to have to explain exactly what that is. Explain, what does it mean to go under the water? What does it mean to come out of the water? What is baptism symbolic of, right? It's us putting on the jersey to show that we are on God's team. It's an outward celebration because of inward transformation that Jesus has done in our hearts. So just be able to explain all of that. And once you get through that whole conversation, then you're going to need to fill out a Connect card, and Lex is going to tell you about that.
Yes, so these are our Connect cards. They're green. You can find them at our Next Steps table in F200. As soon as you walk in the door, the Next Step table is right to the left. So you can find those there. They're always there. And you'll just want to fill this out completely with the student's information. Make sure that you fill it out, especially if you're working with a middle schooler, because we want to make sure that it's legible, because we take these and then we follow up with the student to talk with them about the decision that they made. And so you'll just fill out their personal information at the top of the card, and then on the bottom you'll just mark whatever decisions were made, whether that was baptism, rededication, giving their life to Jesus, if they want to serve, whatever that looks like, and it could be multiple. You'll just indicate that on the card, and then we follow up.
Yep. And also, if you take any notes, there's actually a blank page on the back. So if there's something that happens in the conversation and you just want to write it down, just write it on the back of the paper, and then you'll drop it off at the next step table, and me and Lex will follow up with them. So anyways, that concludes our decision encouraging video. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We love you. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.